I did, and actually, kind of my baptism into CET was I went to a CET experience. My boss thought that it was more of a training situation, and so I went and I learned some stuff, but it also just gave me the confidence to actually do it. So, um, been off and running ever since. Um, because because of I'm not an interior designer. I don't have an interior design degree. I really am more of a space planner, I would say. So when I use CET, I'm using it kind of quick and dirty. I want production out of it. Um, I have a lot of ongoing accounts and projects, so I'll add on to the same drawing over and over. When I'm doing renderings, I want them really just for clarity. I'm not doing a lot of showpiece renderings that are supposed to ooh and ah. It's just supposed to say, "Here's your purple chair, here's your brown chair," and go from there. Um, as I said, we do have a lot of manufacturers, like any dealer. So most of my drawings have multiple manufacturers in there. Um, and the other thing is because I have these ongoing accounts, I do a lot of remodels. I I probably do remodels half the time or thereabouts. So um, I what I'll do is I'll just kind of start. I thought I'd just kind of do like a day in the life kind of thing here. We'll pretend that I've got this project. So if everybody should be able to see my screen. So this is a local community college. This is one of their buildings. As you can see, I've done various rooms in this building um, over time. So we're not going to put something in an open to below space, but we'll come down below it. So there's a couple different ways. This one I already had an AutoCAD drawing from the customer. A lot of times I do go out, do my own measurements, draw my own base plan in AutoCAD, and then import that. This one, since it's an existing thing, we'll just kind of go through it. When I'm doing it, I don't create my own custom tabs, and that's probably a failing of mine. But I rely on these pre-populated drop downs. So I'm gonna do a mixture here today. I'm gonna do some Hayworth, and then I'll do some Han to for the private offices. So not sure how familiar you guys are with kind of the process. I would have gone out by now, talked to the customer, found out what they had in mind, do some sketches, and I bring it back, look at my notes, and kind of draw it up. So we're just going to say here that the customer wanted 8 workstations. And so a lot of times it's as simple as just coming over here, copying it and pasting it and adding on to it. But this time we'll draw it. So come and we'll just say these are going to be 6x6s. So really, I just start throwing panels on there. And I'm not worried about the orientation. I'm just trying to get a footprint put together. This room's kind of a cheat because it's so wide open. A lot of times I'm trying to work around columns or corners or tight spaces or whatever. So we'll rotate that around and then drag it over. And then, typically I'll just kind of come over and we'll do that. And then I start to kind of get a little more spacing on it. I'll use the help lines, figure out my hallways. If I know if this were a bigger space and I was trying to get a whole bunch of stations in there, I'd come over here and I'd use my align tool. So I made sure what my hallway was and then go from there. Sometimes what I'll do, depending on what the the customer's looking for. If they're not quite sure what they want the layout to look like as far as the interior of the cubicle, I'll give them a couple options. So like this side I'll do corners, but this side I'm going to do just all rectangles, and come around like that. Maybe they're interested in height adjustable if they can afford it. And so I'll come down here and pick the wrong tab and pick the right tab. So one thing in general I'll say for some kind of generic feedback is I do a lot of scrolling. I wish there were better ways to reduce the scrolling. I know I can kind of create my own tabs and custom things, but some of them don't stick. Some of them don't hang out the next time you start the program, or you have to open it again. I wish there were better workarounds for that. And I know some of that's based on CET itself and not extension related, but that's just kind of some general feedback. I'm always scrolling. Oh, now I've got to go back up here, and then I got to scroll some more, and so if there's a way to reduce the scrolling, that would be good. My index finger would appreciate that. So basically what I've got then is I've done some of this. Now, I don't have a lot of projects that are actually like 16 of the same station. It just, for me, it doesn't happen. And so I don't tend to make a lot of blocks. I don't tend to make a lot of component blocks or anything like that, because I don't have enough consistency on most of the projects I do. I don't have a lot of projects that are more than, I don't know, 8 stations at a time, probably. When it's kind of ongoing business, every once in a while I'll have a bigger one, but even then it's just not rows and rows of cubicles that are all identical. So I do tend to draw everything individually. I think part of that's probably a carryover from my history with AutoCAD. That's just how I was used to doing it. I'm used to thinking about it that way. And so that's why I do it that way. We'll finish putting all these in. So let me kind of take a look. Okay. At this point, I'm probably going to come back in and add my power. So we'll say they're power poles, which in this extension, I can't add a power pole unless I've added power in the raceway, which sometimes, there's enough inconsistencies between manufacturers that you have to always remember those kind of little details, or else you'll kind of spin your wheels for a minute. So we'll stick a power pole there, and we'll stick one there. I think most manufacturers have some way to show that the power is good. It's green. If I took that power pole out, it'd be red. I don't know. I go kind of both ways on adding receptacles. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I just put 1 or 2 in as a placeholder. So we've got our power in there. So now I'd apply my fabric. So we've still got the old schemes here, but I do have some of my customers saved as schemes. So we'll apply, and in this one, you have to apply the tiles separately. So we'll do that. So we got that now, but my height adjustables didn't have a color associated with them. So scroll, scroll, scroll. And windows fly all over, even if I've tried to do the grouping thing, it doesn't always work. Let's say apply, and then we forgot our paint. So do that. And then come in and throw some storage on there. One thing I might mention too is, I think you guys put a lot of rules in, as far as what's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to go, and that's good. But I think, there's a lot of cases where you're breaking the rules, so to speak, because you're trying to make it work. Technically, I don't, best practice probably is not to have this overhang here unsupported, but that's really what's in the best interest of the customer. And so, I know it'll work. I've got it supported and things like that. So, um, you know, that's just kind of an observation, I think. And I will say, in general, most of the extensions have gotten a lot better about recognizing that and not being so rigid with the rules. There's weird stuff that happens like this where I have to kind of fight it to get it to recognize the panel I want it to attach to. So okay, so that's kind of, again, if this is my first go at a layout for a customer, this is about what I'd give them. I'll throw some dimensions on here so that they can see what the hallway sizes are and things like that. Typically, I'll dimension one workstation, especially on something like this where it's typicals. Let's say then they wanted to plop a couple things in these offices, and you'll notice these are tiny little offices. So, Hayworth is mostly Hayworth is PGC. There's a couple catalogs that they've added, but Han, you'll see it's a combination. So, they're working on, and probably everybody's working on PGC where it makes sense, but that's not always the case. One thing when you're not working with PGC symbols, again, you're gonna end up doing a lot more scrolling and going back and forth as you're trying to test fit things and do that, rather than being able just to stretch it on the screen. So like for that one where I figured out I have 4 feet, so we'll actually give them a little more desk. And then come up here and more scrolling, and we'll come to that and snap that. We'll scroll some more. Plop in a ped. Oh, and then I realized I put in a standing height return, so go back and fix that. I do a lot of waiting for the pop-up things to tell me what size that is. So when it doesn't work and I have to click off and hover again, again here I'll just pop on a dimension so they can see what size their office is going to be. I do a lot of contract work, and certain products are on contracts and others aren't, and so I do end up doing a lot of mixing within a project. So like on the Idaho State contract, Hayworth only has seating. They don't have workstations. So in that case, I might put a Hayworth chair inside of a Hahn office because Hahn doesn't have seating on contract. It's a real Idaho thing. But again, even though this is PGC for this seating, I've got a green box that never ends. And so we'll go through and pick all those. Apply it, and because these are catalogs, we've got to go in here and pick our colors for everything. And it's going to apply to the whole drawing because I said all instead of selected. So so once I've drawn it out, say they called back and said, yeah, we love it exactly like you showed it. Don't make it single change. So I've got that. So now it gets to the part of creating the pricing. So I'll go into, well, let me back up. I skipped a step. So in that, we're only going to price this. Well, obviously I have this whole thing on here. So if I go into calculation, it's not going to have a way to distinguish that. So I'll create a tag, and generally I use tag 2 as my generic tag. I know manufacturers have different assignments to the different tags. One thing is we use eManage for our ERP. I don't know how familiar everybody is with that, but there's a bug in there where it doesn't carry over tag 2, which is unfortunate because tag 2 is the packaging tag for Hayworth. So that's kind of a big frustration for us. But so I'll come in here, and generally I'm going to tag it by room number. So I'll say 150 and 191. And then I'll tag that. I don't know if you guys know this. It took some figuring out, but if your tab does not have tagging associated with it, you can't see your tagging that you're applying. So for instance, I think walls is one. If I go in here now and do a tag, this one may work. Let's see. Okay, this one where I think it's maybe a more generic one. If I just have that at the top, and then I do, of course, I'm not going to remember the specific one, but there's instances where if there's not a tag associated at the bottom, it doesn't show me my rectangle. And so when I'm applying my tag, I have to stop, click down into an extension tab, and then I can see where my rectangle is applying. So I've got my tag done. So going to here, first you have to refresh, which depending on the drawing size can take several long seconds. We'll rename this article view and come down and tag it. And I picked the wrong tag, so we got that. And then, then at that point, I'll apply my discounting in here. Now, I will say, again, probably based on my experience, I'm happy to do pricing out of CET. I've figured it out. I'm comfortable with it. I know how to do it. But I can't directly import a file from CET into eManage for one reason, because I can't do any web pricing by doing it that way. So what I typically do is I'll get this cleaned up and ready to go, and then I'll export my file, open it up in Project Spec, kind of do some further cleaning up, and then I'll run it through the web portal for pricing. At that point, then I'll take that and import that clean, discounted CIF file into eManage. So, and that's then what produces the quote for the customer. So I try not to do that until kind of towards the end. If I can, every customer wants to know, well, how much is this going to cost? Well, I can apply discounts through here to the point where I can say, well, you're about, $10,000 or whatever it is. And then that way it gives them a kind of a ballpark idea. And then if they say, oh, well, we're going to need to cut that, then we can do that before I've gone through the whole pricing exercise. If they say, okay, sounds good, then I'll go ahead and run it the rest of the way through our process. In this case, if I were going to send it to the customer, I'm going to open up probably what I would do on this one, because it's a big building, is I'm going to create my 3D clip and do that for both of these rooms. One thing I don't like is that it always defaults to normal as my lighting. Product lighting is, I don't know what you guys have experienced from other users, but product lighting is my go-to. It's the one I use almost exclusively. So the fact that I have to remember every time to change it is kind of annoying more than anything. So I would render those. And then typically what I'll do, I'll save those two renderings as JPEGs, but then I'll also have my paper view that I'll insert them into, so that they've got the 2D drawing and the 3D. By attaching the JPEG, it just is a bigger view that they can open up on their computer and maybe see some more detail. But these are examples of kind of what I produce for install drawings. And it, again, this shows, okay, it's maple top, it's black fabric, we got 3 marker boards and a cabinet. This is simple. What more do they need to see? So I'm not worried about drawing walls in. Sometimes I do have a carpet in there. If I know what the carpet is, I will go ahead and put the carpet in, because I feel like that helps the customer to better relate to what they're seeing. If the carpet's brown and my kind of dull gray carpet may not translate to some people, so I'll try and at least get in the ballpark for the carpet, just to show them. There are certainly times where I'll draw the walls again, kind of based on how much help the customer needs, really, to understand what they're looking at. I'll go ahead and open this other one that I've been working on, and you'll see kind of a whole different output that I did. Don't open drawings in paper view. So here you can see for this customer, they're in a smaller county that's about an hour away, and they were just overjoyed that I would come and even talk to them. And so I really wanted to help them understand what they were getting. They have 25-year-old used furniture. They had no real basis to understand. So to me, it was very important that they understand what they were looking at. So I put in a similar carpet. I drew the walls in. I colored them an approximate color. They had some built-in cabinets. So I did spend some extra time on this one because I thought it was going to help them, and it turns out it did. So this is definitely kind of more of a upgraded production, and a lot of my customers are ongoing customers, so they don't need as much help understanding what's going on. They can visualize. They've done it before. They know the lingo. So when I have a new customer like this, sometimes I'll do this thinking it'll help them, and it is useful. I even put in the fire extinguisher here. I was pretty proud. So in this case, I also applied some sketchiness to it. I kind of like doing that where it's not quite as photo finished to kind of represent that it's a working drawing still, and not meant to be completely finished. So we've got about 13 minutes left. Are there any questions? Anything I can go over again or explain how I would do it?
No, I think it was very helpful. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I know it's easy to kind of get locked into, you're in an office somewhere just programming the product, and it's sometimes hard to think about how it's actually going to be used, and how it translates between your best intention and then the reality. It's kind of like laws that way, where they'll pass a law thinking it's going to mean one thing, but then people interpret it differently.
You said that you use the product lighting rendering almost exclusively. Is there a reason for that? Just like the results, or?
Yeah, I just think it looks really good. I've tried the realistic a few times because that was the hot new one, on this new release, and it takes forever. And it didn't do it for me. I don't know how else to explain it. I just, maybe it's the tones or the intensity that you get, but to me, I just think that the product lighting is the best kind of all around. I used to use office lighting more, but I felt like the light got to be too harsh. And when I'm not, I I'd never apply ceilings. I didn't never. And so when I'm not specifying my own lighting and just using it off of the kind of the pre-populated photo lab lighting, I just felt like it was too blown out sometimes and didn't really reflect what the room looked like. Another thing I'll do sometimes, especially like on that other drawing where I'm trying to communicate what's inside of the drawing or inside of the cubicle, I will do like some ghosted wing panels. If in this case, if I'd drawn wing panels, I'll give them a view kind of like this, and then I'll ghost out one of these wing panels so that they can see behind it and know what's back there. Here I thought I was talking to 4 people, and now I see there's 18 participants. Wow. Welcome to the other 14.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I asked the question, but it was my headset was messed up. It looks like you have a lot of extensions there, and I guess what I was curious about, is there any tools that you find particularly useful when you get a new extension, or is there like any must-have tools, or is there, a favorite tool of yours?
I do like, I don't know what makes this happen. I do obviously like it when they're listed on the pull down, because that's how I do my filtering. I As far as they all have kind of things that I like. As I'm using the new schemes more, not sure who all is on here, but Han and All Steel and a couple others I know have the new schemes. I'm kind of biased because I helped develop the feedback on the new schemes, but I like it. I really like being able to apply like finishes to things. You know, with the old scheme where I'd have to pick charcoal 4 different times. Well, who's not going to make the raceway and the top cap the same color? I know it's an option. I know, but I've just never. I wouldn't see it that way, and I would never tell a customer to do that. Whereas, with the new scheme, when I come in here, I can apply it to the same properties, and so that's been nice. I do like being able to turn it on and off depending on what I'm doing. Um, I think this was a big improvement. I know it can't always get imported straight away by the manufacturer based on what's involved, but I think if you haven't yet, that's a big thing. um i I like in general, when it feels like feedback is heard. Han had a thing, it was called like a dynamic power harness. I didn't know what it was for. It never quite made sense to me, and this newest release I got rid of it. So it cleans some stuff up. It's one less thing to try and figure out or think about. So I think in general, when I see improvements being made to an extension and I can, report a feature request and get some feedback on it and see some change to the extension, that's great, because there's other extensions that they're like, they are an extension, but they don't seem to do much with it. It's outdated. It's not kept up, incomplete. That I'll stop using an extension pretty quickly in that case if it's just not, if it's kind of a placeholder. It just isn't something I'm gonna mess around with. That's why I've been really working with some of the manufacturers to improve their extension, because I do want to use it all the time, and they are important partners, and so the better things get, the better for everybody.
I've got one follow-up.
Yeah.
As a designer, where do you lose the most time?
The blue circle of death. Yeah. It's the waiting on things. It's like lately, and I don't know if this is an 11 thing, I don't know, but on a big drawing, when I come into here and then I hit print, it's like, okay, all right, now I can start working on, well, that was like 6 seconds or whatever. Sometimes it's like 30 seconds before this screen pops up. So and I don't know that whose responsibility that is. Is that a core issue, or is that because the extensions are sloppy and it's trying to pull everything together? So it's just it's the loading and waiting for that. And the blue circle is real, because you never know what's going to set it off. So you can like click on something and drag it, and all of a sudden that blue circle pops up, and then you got it for the next 30 minutes, because you don't know what you did. Like just now, I'm trying to undo, and it's got to think about it and think about it and think about it and think about it. And okay, now it's done. All that for an undo. So it's not laying out panels or populating the drawing. It's almost like it's a finer level than that, where it's just, you don't know what's going to set something off to bog you down, and then you're waiting, and and potentially lock up, and then you're having to do a clean start. And so but I have noticed this print thing has been annoying lately. And here I've already done this once, and it still had to do it again. So who do we blame for that? CET sounds good. All right, we're gonna get, Elisa's gonna cut us off here in about 2 minutes. I heard they're pretty strict with their cutoff time. So any last question or comment or thought? Appreciate everybody coming in. If you want to email me directly, you're welcome to. I'm always happy to answer questions, give my 2 cents, and just want to continually make the program better for everybody.
Paul, I think your headset is muted.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Just want to say real quick that I appreciate your time. I think you hit the nail on the head that, yeah, sometimes we do kind of get in our corners and we forget, we can design the best plan we can come up with, but if it doesn't actually get used, obviously it's not that great. So it's
Right.
really great to see what's actually useful and what's, what's actually helping. So again, thank you. I really appreciate it. To all the attendees, next up in our next breakout, we have for developers, we have a get the most out of prop schemes session that we're going to be going over. There's also a chat with programmers. There's another breakout on completely siffable, all available to join. For those of you who were trying to join this session, you had some problems with the link. It was saying the wrong place. That's been sorted out now. So the link that's in the schedule is working correct now. So yeah, thank you again, Chad, and I hope to see everyone in the next sessions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks.